Hi everyone, so I think we're going to get started. Welcome to the LFM Server 4.1 webinar. This is probably the busiest webinar that we've actually done so far. Not that we're not very popular, but I guess this one is more popular than others. So before we start properly this webinar, I'm going to do another sound check because we got more people that arrived. If you can hear me well, could you say as such in the chat pod on the right hand side of your screen? Just going to give you 5 seconds to do this. It looks okay. Okay, so I think we can just proceed with the webinar. So my name is Josh Boisson. I'm the marketing specialist for LFM Software Limited. And here with me today, you've got Neil Cocker from the LFM support team. He's a team lead, so he leads the LFM support team here in Manchester. We've got today people from all around the world actually joining us. So I was saying it's a busy webinar. We've got people from North America, South America, Europe, even Middle East. So thanks for your dedication, I guess, because of different time zones. I think we're on different times at the moment. It's 4:10 here in the UK. So thanks for joining us today. I'd like you to also familiarize yourself with the interface. You could either put the webinar on full screen, and then in that case, if you hover your mouse over the right-hand side of your screen, you should be able to then get access to some more features within this webinar session. So I'll wait for the screen to show up. Here we are. So here's what we're going to talk about today, LFM Server 4.1. I will be dealing with the first part of this webinar because I think I'd like to put things into context before we actually get into the LFM Server 4.1 demonstrations. I appreciate that we've got some of our existing clients joining us today, but we also have some other people that'd like to know more about LFM. So I want them to be able to get a better understanding of LFM as a whole, so they can put this demonstration into context and understand what the portfolio is all about. LFM Server 4.0 was released last year, and it was already a great advance for the LFM software. It introduced a brand new interface, but this year, because we've set the tone, we've actually really focused on getting new features, adding more functionalities, and eventually making the whole software suite a lot more capable. So Neil, next to me, will be doing the demos a bit later on. But I'm going to start with my presentation. Very long, I know, to say LFM Server 4.1, but like I said, I think it's still good for you to know a bit more about LFM. So here's a brief overview of who we are. LFM software was launched in the late 90s, in 98, and since that we've been dedicated to providing laser scanning software solution. That's what we've been doing since that, and we believe we do it quite well actually. We've kept our roots, and we're still based in Manchester, which is in the north of the United Kingdom, the north of England. So at the moment, it's not very nice and sunny outside. It's actually pretty gloomy, but you know we get used to it. We were formerly part of the ZF UK company, so part of the Southern Frolish Group, and then we got acquired by Aviva. When we were part of the ZF Group, we were still handling the software solution. ZF in Germany and in the US were still in charge of the hardware as well, but helping us, I guess, with the software side of things, with the LFM software. Since that, like I said, we got acquired by Aviva in October. This is something that I'll be touching on a bit later on. But what's important to say here is that despite the fact that we were acquired by Aviva, we still want to maintain our philosophy on openness. I'll be talking about our philosophy later, like I said in this webinar, but that's something that you really need to understand. We're dedicated to being open with different CAD systems and different hardware systems. We are widely considered as being the #1 laser scanning solution. This is what our users say anyway, and I'm pretty sure that some of them recommend our work and our software to others. And we are determined to keep up the development effort. What's interesting as well is that we are a small company, but the software is actually used worldwide. So that shows that we are a small company dedicated to producing great things. Some of you are quite familiar with these logos. So these are the the products that actually form the LFM software portfolio. The LFM register side of things will ensure that you can bring individual 3D laser scans together and then create a uniform project coordinate system. LFM Server will make sure that you can connect with various CAD systems and also allows you to handle large databases. LFM Modeler is will handle the modeling side of things, which is all about modeling from point cloud data in order to create a 3D model easily and rapidly. Finally, LFM NetView, on the bottom right hand side of your screen, has been designed to meet a modern world issue which until now has posed a real challenge to organizations, a challenge which could not be resolved easily or effectively, and this issue is the global work share. We believe that LFM NetView solved this issue by allowing rapid access to data from anywhere around the world. So as you can see, we like to think that we've got what we called a turnkey solution. From working with point cloud to modeling to sharing on the internet with colleagues worldwide or linking to different CAD systems, we believe that LFM can address all those issues and is therefore relevant throughout the entire life cycle of the laser scan data, which is pretty important nowadays. That actually now brings me to the next slide, which is all about the LFM philosophy. I'll wait for your screen to catch up. Here we go. What's interesting about this slide is that it actually summarizes what LFM is all about. The LFM philosophy is probably our greatest asset, our greatest strength. What this slide shows you is that actually LFM brings a major business value, and I'm going to explain to you why it is important. I was attending a webinar that the SPA website organized a couple of weeks ago about 5 global trends in 3D data acquisition. One of the trends was that cheaper points. What this means is that the prices drop because we gain more demands for points, for point cloud. Therefore, there's more providers of point clouds, and therefore, these are more affordable. So with the expansion of laser scanning, we need to make sure that we can keep up with this. How do you actually ensure that the software solution keeps up to date without any compatibility issue? I was saying that the points are cheaper, and now the hardware solutions are cheaper. One of the best examples, for example, with the Faro Focus 3D introduced recently. This is probably the 3D laser scanner. Sorry, that's just the most affordable at the moment, without any, I guess, any problem on the quality of the data, because it still produces great quality data. So, how do you ensure that the software solution keeps up to date with all those different hardware systems? This is where LFM actually is very important, because our philosophy is all based on the neutrality, the openness. We aim to be neutral at both ends. The first aspect would be neutral with respect to capture devices, which is what the left-hand side of this graph shows you. Regardless of the hardware system solutions, whether it's a Trimble, a Zoll and Froley scanner, Faro scanner, Leica, Regal, or Neutral, we can accept those data inside LFM. We are also neutral with respect to CAD and modeling technologies, which is the right-hand side of your screen. I was saying that we are now part of the Aviva group. However, this does not mean that we're only developing tools to deal with Aviva's CAD platforms. We also accept Intergraphs. We can deal with microstations and all those that are cited on this graph. In practical terms, this is achieved by accepting data from all the major scanner vendors, including Faro's technology, as I was saying, and the data. So, say we stay with the Faro Focus 3D. The data is taken from the LFS format, is then processed into ZFC format via the LFM scan gateway. This ZFC data can then be used throughout the entire LFM portfolio, which comes back to the turnkey solution I was talking about earlier. The second aspect of this graph that I'd like to talk to you about is that it actually brings business value. We want to be consistent across all CAD platforms, so the deliverable actually remains the same. So from a service provider standpoint, regardless of their client and specifications, the deliverables and the work processes will actually remain the same, which is, I guess, pretty important. We are working towards getting a common interface throughout the entire portfolio, but a common interface with actually more functionalities and better performances. LFM Server, which is right in the middle of your screen, will be actually the base core application for the future. So that's something that's important: consistency and neutrality. Next slide. There you go. So your screen is okay. Now I'd like to talk to you about the actual foundations of our business, because this is established on three main principles. The first one is to be able to provide 3D data capture software solutions. We are going to use what we call VARs, so value-added resellers, to sell and distribute the LFM software. And finally, we like to think that we're actually customer-driven. We have multiple user meetings twice a year, actually, one in Europe and one in the United States. We had one recently after the SPA conference in Houston this year. And hopefully, I guess, the people that attended this user meeting will say to you that they had not only a great experience, but actually learned what will be available soon, what our roadmap is in terms of product development and product strategy. In order to provide innovative laser scanning software solution, we have set up what we call a Center of Excellence for 3D data capture here in Manchester. What you can see here on your screen is the entire team. Used to be called ZF UK until we were acquired by Aviva. Since that, our neutrality isn't just reflected through our actual software portfolio, but it is also reflected in our business strategy. This is the reason why we created a separate entity called LFM Software Limited, because we want to be perceived as being neutral and we want to remain neutral. So it is important that you understand that this is not just from a software side, but also a business aspect. The purpose of this Center of Excellence is to be a one-stop shop for all things to do with 3D laser scanning. We will develop the software here, we provide support here, the marketing department is here, the training will be done here. So as you can see, it's a pretty big investment, but we have a lot of resources that we want to invest in this, and we hope that we can make it work. So the 3D Data Capture Center of Excellence will be one of the base foundations for the LFM Software Limited business in the years to come. I was also mentioning that the LFM software is part of the Aviva group, but this does not mean that the entire product line will be affected, which brings me to my next slide. Aviva also offers 3D laser scanning solutions. However, we want to make sure that there is no confusion at all. And in that respect, we've decided to maintain our neutrality on the selling and distribution aspect of things as well. Therefore, by splitting the sales channel, we want to make sure that we are seen as being neutral, because this is who we are. This is our philosophy, like I was showing you in that graph before. This is what makes us us. The product splits will also ensure that we can provide the best support possible by focusing on our own laser scanning solution. So we're not trying to overstretch ourselves here. We're very much dedicated and focused on the LFM product line. So as you can see on this slide, the sales channels are divided into two groups. The Aviva sales channel will focus on the Aviva product line. LMR, laser modeler, AvivaNet IntelliLaser, and LMI, laser modeler interface, will be distributed by Aviva and its sales channel. It won't just be distributed, but also supported mainly by the Aviva sales channel. On the other side, the LFM product line will be supported by us in Manchester in the 3D Data Capture Center of Excellence, and also by our value-added resellers. So the entire product line, the LFM Register, LFM Server, LFM Modeler, and LFM NetView, all handled here in Manchester and distributed via our value-added resellers. Sorry if it's a bit slow in between slides, but I want to make sure that the screen keeps up. Now finally, the last part of my presentation, I know you're all getting a bit excited for Neil's demonstration. It's about the Certified Service Provider Program, which we introduced at SPA this year. Note that this is still work in progress. It's not yet finished, and we're just actually laying the foundations of a big program that we will be launching this year. So this is still work under development, so we want to make sure that we do things right. So it takes a bit of time, but we're not going to launch this until it's actually ready. Here are the values of the CSP program, and this is what we're actually trying to get out of it. The LFM Certified Service Provider Program is the true foundation of a strong relationship between you, the LFM software team, and your organization. Through this program, our aim is to provide our partners with the resources and support necessary to ensure mutual success. We want to guarantee that we can together broaden our business opportunities. We want to make sure that LFM is the standard deliverable, and this is one of the main aspects of this program. We want to make sure that we ensure quality and consistency. Again, it comes back to this consistency throughout the deliverables. That's one of the other aspects of this CSP program. So it's about building relationship with you and your organization, and making sure that LFM software is delivered correctly and consistently throughout your business program. Here are some of the building blocks for the CSP programs. It includes some of the things that are on this slide, but are not restricted to this. If you become part of this Certified Service Provider Program, you can receive training on LFM, so a full training. You can get access to some marketing collaterals, co-branded, or some specific videos to help you better understand the software. We want to make sure that you get full access to the hotline and to the ticketing system as much software as needed, because at the end of the day, if you want to make sure that you can understand the software, you want to be able to actually have it within your organization. If you want to know more about the CSP program, you could either email me or you could actually go on the LFM website. I should have included this, but I'll probably email you anyway. It's on lfmsoftware.com/partners, so it's pretty easy to remember. So that'll give you more information. There's a form to fill in as well. The email will come to me, and then we can get in touch and discuss this a bit further. So that is it for our presentation. I'm going to hand you over to Neil from the support team, who'll be now dealing with the second aspect of this presentation, which is all about the demonstrations.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Neil Cocker from the support team in Manchester. I'm going to take you through 4.1 today. I'm going to concentrate obviously on the new features with 4.1, but as part of that I'm going to touch on some of the existing features so that you can see them in context. I believe that I might be having problems with the update rate on the display. So I'm going to try to restrict the movement of the point cloud so that a good chance to keep up to speed. As you can see on the screen now, we've got a point cloud up on the screen. This is 4.1 that we're looking at. For everyone that's familiar with LFM Server 4.0, there's not a dramatic difference in the way that the front end looks. Underneath, however, there's an awful lot of development gone in to the actual code underlying this, and that's really aimed at making it future-proof. One of the big developments with Server 4.1 is that we've tidied up the way that a lot of the underlying data is stored. It's more data-centric, database-centric. So all the volumes and demolition data is stored separately if you would wish to in a SQL Server database. You can see also that on the left-hand side, on the management hierarchy that's visible, you'll see that there's a project up. So at the moment, LFM Server 4.1 has the capability to operate in the same way that it did with Server 4, which is that you can open an individual data set one by one and have it on the screen. With the introduction of 4.1, we've got a project wrapper that's been incorporated into this. So it stores all the information within that project. So for people that don't want to have a dramatic change, they can have a gentle introduction to 4.1 and operate it visually as 4.0. But as you start to get more and more involved with the possibilities of the new system, then I believe that you'll really grasp the opportunity to use this project management layer. You can see that in this instance I've got a project that I've set up. I've incorporated one point cloud underneath that, but that could be there could be several point clouds all underneath. For instance, if you're trying to cover a particular sector of maybe the North Sea, you could concentrate all your assets in one project layer and call the point clouds in as and when necessary. This same project layer allows you to introduce models and store those in the project database as well. And I'm going to take you through that separately. Before we start, one of the new features with Server 4.1 is that the need for dongles for the production of the data set in the first place has been removed. So on the installer for the software, you'll see another option, which is an administration mode. If you install it in this particular mode, that gives you the chance and capability to create a new data set, just as you used to do, but without the need to have a dongle. All that it will do is look for the generation feature on the Sentinel license. Okay, so the first thing that I should mention as part of setting up a particular project is that there is something that allows you to, if I can just find it, it allows you to create a series of users and store those users as part of, here we go, there's another tab on here called the project tab. Under there, if you've got the user control enabled as switch to on, which is yes, what will happen is that if you go into the utilities, you'll get this new option, which is users. By default, when you create a new project, you will be in administration mode. That gives you all the capabilities that have always been present in LFM Server. It's not always desirable to let everybody have full rights over all the projects, so this new layer allows the administration team to set up particular groups and user accounts. Each one of those user accounts would then have certain privileges, and you can see that it's split into 3 groups here. So what happens is that the administrator logs in, creates his own password at the start of the project, and then includes specific people that might be allowed to access the particular project. underneath there we've got groups, so you could have any number of new users at the top. All those users could be assigned to a particular group, so that would be in sort of a typical project. You would get a structural team groups, equipment team groups, and so on. Each one of those groups, if you look at the bottom, can be assigned permissions. All these are just drag and drop options. So it's accessed by a right key introduction, so you make a new user, put in the name of the person on the project. Someone on the administration side would have pre-prepared this so that all the logical team groups would be created. You can see in there that I've just done this as a very basic introduction, but on the piping team, they've got the capability to run clashes and check clashes, but they've not got the capability of approval. That would be assigned to any person that's been in the QA team. So as you can see that when this, you cannot set this up hard and fast for every particular project, so it's really down to the person that takes administration rights over a project to work out the best method of controlling this. But the real aim is to allow people to make sure that nothing untoward happens to the project. For instance, it's not always desirable to allow people to demolish data. So that might need to be a particular administration person, and that could be closed off to general use. If you're not an administration person, you will not see this option here or the password option on the Utilities tab. So what I want to on first is that I want to just refresh people's minds about how to select point clouds. This is not new LFM Server 4.1, as you can guess if you're an existing user. The user would generally open up in perspective mode, click on an area of interest in the point cloud, accept that particular area, and any number of points that contribute to that initial opening cube would be captured in high resolution detail. So what I'm going to do is to zoom into there. Like I say, I'm aware that there might be a delay because of the webinar software. Okay, so I've left that a little time to catch up. So that would be the initial pick. Generally at this point the user would go to the adjustment option here, and then we've got control via the grip system to alter the shape of the block, that's this selection block. Once that you're happy that you've got the point cloud as you need it, again just right click in there and it will cut the point cloud. Obviously the smaller the block of interest, the more resolution, the higher density points are going to be presented on the screen. On the adjustment, we've also got the possibility of spawning a new block of interest from an existing size. So that started by pressing the adjust button again, and then the spawn button. I'm going to now click on the blocks, and I've got control, and I can start to resize the second block. You can do this any number of times, keep spawning from one block to another, and that allows you to get full control over the point cloud that you may want to trace the direction of a pipe bridge, for instance, that might start off north-south and then go east. Once you're happy with that, again just press OK and control as such. So if I just reset that, So we get the full point cloud on again. What I want to do before I move any further is to just put it into orthographic mode and just show you how it differs with the ortho mode. So what I'm going to do is to just get the two views up on the screen, go to the volume selection icon up here, drag a box of interest in the plan, and then I'm going to do the same to give me a max and min elevation. And thereafter it's going to return the same volume selection dialog, and it will centralize on the screen with the point cloud as I've cut it. If I go back into perspective mode, you'll see that I can chop and change and go between ortho and perspective at will. On the adjustment in the ortho mode, I just go to the adjust button again, and I've got control over the grips just in the same way that I have them with the perspective mode. Again, once I'm happy with that, just right click in there, accept it, and it will recut the point cloud. You'll notice that you've got, although it's cut off on mine, there is, just bear with me a moment please. No. Oops, how do I get? Unfortunately, I've not got full visualization of the my workspace, so it's going to restrict me. But what I was going to do is just show you repositioning, but that's straightforward. And also the way that you can spawn off is identical in the orthographic mode. So I'm just pressing adjust again, and then grab the grips until I get the desired shape. And like I said before, at any point I can go back and look at it in perspective mode. So that's just a refresh on how to cut the point clouds, and that side of it is identical between LFM Server 4 and 4.1. Okay, so what I want to do is have a look at the management system. You can see that that looks very similar to how it does with 4.1, but we've got additional functionality in here. An infinite number of possibilities on the volume layering, so you can categorize different groups of points and have them several layers deep. So you can be really intricate in the way that you capture maybe the location of a pipe, and that could correspond to lots and lots of individual volumes that represent that pipe, and they could all be put in certain categories within the hierarchy. The benchmarking system is very similar to how it looks in Server 4.0. If you just double click to any of these, you're able to go in and show the context. You're able to then, once you've got the context around a benchmark, you can just cut and alter the point cloud as we've just seen with the volume selection adjustment box. So the idea behind the benchmarking system is that it allows the end user to understand where the survey has been locked against. So if there are a number of benchmarks that have been used and picked up by the survey crew, the user can understand where those are. And there's also a possibility to add additional benchmarks that can be put in by the user themselves if they've got permission to do that. So that could be an indication on a tie-in point or a bottom of steel or something relevant that it's desirable to keep. But in operation, this works very similar to how it does with Server 4.0. Okay, so we move on to the project. If I just reset the point cloud on here, and we'll look at bringing in some of the bubble views and get to LFM Server 4.0. I'm just going to give you a moment to catch up. I think the bubble views take quite a long time to draw. So this was initiated by me dragging number 6 from the list and dropping on the workspace on the desktop. You can see the tab on the side, on the top here, indicates that we've gone from looking at the 3D view to scan number 6 bubble view. The sequence is a little different. It's got a vertical back now. This tool palette is visible as soon as you load a bubble on the desktop. The measuring functionality is as you would expect with Server 4.0. It's just presented in a different manner. So if I just want to illustrate this, I can just pick on a diameter. And click between 2 points, and you will, when it catches up, you will get an indication on the diameter that I've just picked. And also, if you click and hold, you'll get information about the center points of the cylinder that it's just fitted. One thing that's really useful with this system is that you can go in and call a volume around something that's visible in the bubble view. So if I go and the volume, get volume button up at the top on the bubble toolbar, and then click somewhere near where I've just made the inquiry about the pipe diameter, it's assumed that around there, but you've got choice to edit that to make it bigger or smaller if you would like. Obviously if this is in the US, then you would set this on feet and inches, so it's more relevant to your project. All that the user would do then is just press OK and go back into 3D, and then you can see that the temporary pipe object that I've just fitted in context with the points overlaid with that. Once again, we've got the capability to just press the adjust button and then just grow that region so that you can see it truly in context. One thing that you'll notice on here is that there's good correlation now between the project hierarchy on the left-hand side. Anything in the management tab is linked to 3D and vice versa. So I've just put a measured pipe in there, and in the 3D window I've clicked on it, and you can see that in the hierarchy it's opened up my objects workspace. There's a temporary group called measured pipes, and then that pipe is listed out as a text. All the information relating to that object is written at the bottom of the screen so that you can go and make a judgment about how relevant it might be. Once again, if I just turn the point cloud off, just as just as you can with Server 4.0, we've got the possibility of putting tie-ins onto objects. Those tie-ins again can be stored in the project and used, and if we're connected to a CAD package, these tie-ins can be presented to the CAD design directly. Okay. So what I want to do now is to start looking at the model side of the project. Before I do that, actually, one thing that you'll be aware of is that between Server 4 and 4.1, you'll lose the crosses that were present previously, and you'll start to see an indication of a scan. So that clearly shows where the scan was positioned, the orientation of that scanner. As we move forward with this product, we'll hopefully be able to incorporate some of the metadata that's captured and stored with the actual individual scan headers. So that data could include project details, when it was captured and by whom. All that information will start to appear in this window at the bottom of the screen. This allows me to go in and click and find out from the 3D quickly which scan was taken. You're able to call the bubble view directly from 3D. Again, there's a little which is I'm just going to try and make allowances for on here. Okay, as Server 4.1, you'll see the scan sites inside the bubble views. Anything that's got a cross in the scan site means that it's an obscured scan. Anything that's a little bit larger and without a cross means that it's in clear line of sight of where I am at present. So once you're in the bubble world, you can navigate from next without going back into 3D or looking at the bubble view browser system on the left hand side. Which is related to the way that the bubble views passed across the webinar system. At the bottom of the bubble view, you'll see that the whole has a compass system in, so that it gives you an indication of the Planck coordinate system. We're looking due west at the moment. One thing that not everybody's aware of, again, with Server 4.0 is that we've got the tile view system. This allows you to configure the workspace to see a number of bubble views and also the 3D at the same time. If you go to the top corner of any of the windows, you can click and hold and the screen displays. You can see if I've got any bubble views open on the tab system at the top, I can just click and hold and drag those to the workspace. Again, I can stretch this to make this take up the full half of this, or I can introduce a second bubble view. Maybe this time I'll do that by dragging from the hierarchy and dropping it direct on workspace. So if you're trying to look at maybe a model as we move forward with this reviewing models, it's really nice to be able to work in this tile view so that you can see the bubble view on the screen. You can see 3D data clearly overlaid with the model, and it really does give the designer a sense of being there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to just go back into and I'm going to reset the volume. Okay, so on the Objects tab on the browser on the left-hand side, you can see that because I've done a temporary object, I've got the measured pipes here, but what I'm interested in is this, which is a model that's been brought in and stored as part of the project. You can see that this levels. And there are a number of possibilities with this. If you've got access to LFM Modeler, the version of Modeler, which is 398, I believe, that's coming out with this product, has an intelligent export option that will allow you to take the resulting model out and put it into LFM Server. The hierarchy that's been set in LFM Modeler will be maintained in LFM Server, and you're able to edit it in the same way that we were looking at with the temporary object. So what I've started to do is just double click on one of these items. I've got the option to show context. This doesn't seem to have any points around there. Okay. So if I go and click on an item maybe in 3D, you'll see that the browser will expand to the object that I've picked, and it will highlight it. It might not come across so well on the webinar, but what I've done there is to click on that particular elbow. It's expanded the hierarchy and highlighted to the user where that particular elbow might be. What you can do at this point is to say show context, and what that will do then is to just bring the point cloud as it sees it at this point. So if you've got a mismatch between the model and the point cloud, it's going to be immediately obvious. So just to recap, if I just go and pick another item, I'm just waiting for it to update. Because we're looking at a particular flange here, I've called the volume around it. It's in amongst quite a congested area. So if you look at the bottom of the display, there's an option to clip. And clipping will just take everything away from the model that is on the outside of the box of interest. And that really, again, allows the designer to get a good feel for any potential problems. Obviously, once we're in this mode, we've got the option to adjust the volume at the top, just as we've been doing earlier. So if I just grab one of the scaling grips on the side, I can just make that a bit bigger generally. And then problem. You'll see, because I've made the box a bit bigger, you're seeing more of the model because the clipping is dynamic. It'll adjust itself as you take and move the volumes. If I go into ortho mode, it works in the same way. So at the minute we're looking at an LFM modeler output, but if you've got access to RVM files, Aviva view files, we can also incorporate those with the project. The difference between the two is that the RVM files you cannot edit. For instance, a model, if I bring an LFM modeler model in, I can lock this off and then remove certain items. With an RVM file, it's going to just show me exactly what's in that RVM file until the RVM file is either removed or updated. One of our customers was talking about running batch processes of RVM files, and there was a concern that it might take too long to update daily once they're introduced with LFM Server in a project. So once you've got an RVM file now, it will remember where that came from. So if you're running a batch process overnight and it always updates in the same place, there's a one-click option to refresh the model. So it means that the way of administration, the administration of updating the model is so much easier. Okay, so what I want to do now is to just bring up a bubble view. So if I just call a bubble view in this region, again, there's a bit of a delay. Okay, it should be with you, I guess, now. You'll see on the bubble tab, we've got the default, which is no object. Again, I'm looking across to see when another machine updates. There's a significant delay on this. Okay, so by default it's got no objects visible. If you take the next item down, which is show all objects, what that's going to do is take the complete design and superimpose it in the bubble view. So this is a significant advancement over Server 4.0. Again, we've got customers that want to visualize complete models inside the bubble view, and in certain CAD links it has restrictions. If you've got the possibility to bring a model inside the project database, then you can see everything in that bubble environment. Again, you can click on an item in the bubble view and the hierarchy will expand and highlight that particular item. Again, it's really nice to be able to interact with the bubble view and then just work out exactly what we're looking at and where it might be. I'm taking a little time again because I believe it's taking a while to update. again, I'm just going to click on this pipe, and it's taken me to that particular pipe in the hierarchy. If you find that that's too congested, what you can do is to go back up to the option, and then we've got a new mode called Dynamic Objects. So if I put it into there, it should go back to being a standard bubble view until I move the cursor over something that there is a model behind. As soon as it recognizes that there's a model there, what it will do is just draw that particular model, part of the model. Again, you're able to just move around until something highlights that's interesting to you. Click on it, and it will take me in the objects browser to that particular item. So one of the real strong points of this system is the way that it ties everything together visually, from 3D to the hierarchy on the left-hand side to 3D, and also from 3D and the hierarchy to the bubble view. It means that it's far easier to understand what we're looking at. So I think those are the main points that I wanted to get across today. Like I said, I've really been heavily constrained by the update rate on this system. So what I would like to do is, if anyone would like a more detailed look at LFM Server 4.1, maybe I can organize a WebEx which should give better performance. So if anyone would like to see that in greater detail, please contact Joss, who will make the arrangements. I'd like to just at this point open up for questions, and between Joss and myself we'll try and make sure that everyone has seen what they want to see from this exercise. Hi, we're just having a look at some of the questions that are coming in. We've had one about permission groups and whether they're specific to LFM or are they based on Windows domain names. So these are relating to LFM permissions. So what I would say on this is that we'd appreciate your feedback. We've given you an indication of some of the controls that are possible with the new project system. If you take a look at those and find that they don't offer you the type of control that you're looking for, would be happy to incorporate any additional controls in there. But it really is dependent on the feedback that we get. So please have a look at it. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then tell us about it and we'll look to adapt it to suit your needs. We've had a question about being able to take objects from CAD. Like I touched on earlier, we've just concentrated on the core product of Server 4.1. Once it's connected to all the different CAD software that we support, we can operate in exactly the same way that we do with Server 4.0. So for instance, if you're connected to MicroStation, you can take the CAD drawing across and it will sit in the project. So it would operate exactly as it does at present, but you do have the possibility of storing that for use later on. We've had a question about CAD objects and project objects. So the CAD objects as they come across are going to be, it's going to be a flat structure. It's going to just take basic geometry into the system as it always did. With the system that we've demonstrated today, if you've got an RVM file, that's typically a Viva customers, or if you've got an LFM file in there, it's going to maintain the intelligence that's been built into that particular drawing. That's the main difference. We've had a question about a release date. This is undergoing final tests at the moment. Certain customers have got access to it already, and I would guess that we're looking at between 1 and 2 weeks before full release on that. We've had a question about passwords. So what you can do with the password system is to assign a particular user a password, or you could make a general group. So if you're worried that it's too heavy to give everybody a password, then I guess you could make a general piping group with just a single password for that group, which should be quite easy to maintain, I guess. I believe that you don't need to have a password in, but obviously it would make sense for the administrator to have a unique secret password to be able to make sure that everything is working correctly. We've had a question about incorporating LFM modeler objects to the server. LFM modeler, if you've got access to that, you need the version that's going to be out at the same time as server 4.1, and that has an option on the intelligent export route for inclusion with this system. There aren't any of the older versions of modeler that would be able to support the new format. We've had a question about licensing, and it's related to whether it's the same system as in use currently on server 4.0, and yes it is. So the upgrade route will be that you would just get access to the new installer. On the installer, when you run that, there is an option to incorporate the Sentinel license feature, but if you're an existing customer, you can ignore that, and it will just put server 4.1 directly on, and it will work as before. Like I said, the main difference on the licensing side relates to creating data sets in the first place. We've had negative feedback in the past about using dongles. People have had problems with the dongles being upset by it's very, very sensitive to dates. So as people have used the calendars on the laptops, it's cause problems with the dongles. We've had other customers that find that they lose the dongles, and obviously that's really it's going to cause a problem as well. So with 4.1, as long as you've got a license feature for LFM Server Generator, then you'll be able to make new data sets directly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I think we've gone through all the immediate questions. What I would ask is that if you've got any after you've thought about it, and like I say, we can always organise direct web sessions if you're interested in looking in greater detail. But if you do think of anything, then please email Joss in the first instance, and then he can make the arrangements. What I'm going to do now is pass this back to Joss so that he can wrap up. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Hi again, everyone. So we've had a few questions about the webinar itself. The answer is yes, it is being recorded. Everyone will get access to it, even the persons that have not managed to attend. So I'll send everyone the link shortly, probably tomorrow, with the recording version with